Wild Time Cooking with Allison Davis is brought to you by Corman Kitchen and Bath.
Welcome back to Midday Kentucky. Chef Allison Davis here in the Wild Time Kitchen, and we are talking stuffing, or is it dressing? In my case with my family, we called it knots because my grandmother would take stuffing and she'd roll them into like balls, and she had her own name for it and called them knots. So that's just a whole nother realm. But we kind of got to the conclusion that it's stuffing if it's in the bird, and otherwise it's dressing. So we're talking the bread, celery, onion, sage, all the goodness. My daughter's favorite dish. This is a family staple at a Thanksgiving table, or even Christmas for that matter. So we are going to get started with our dressing, and we are using some different assortment of breads. This is something that I think a lot of people may even have in their freezer sometimes. You may have like leftover like bread that you've frozen, or some dinner rolls, and in this case I had some fresh biscuits. So what I did was we crumbled all of them up and then took them in the oven and then toasted them so that they got really nice and dry and crispy. So we just broke everything apart and then crisped them up. So I've got the biscuits, the wheat bread, and then this is those buttery buttermilk biscuits. So you can imagine how all of this is really going to give a really nice flavor to the overall dressing. All right, so the bits that are going to go in with our dressing, we have some onions, of course, that we're going to saute, and celery, two musts, if you ask me. Now, a couple of other things. Our camera guy was talking. He said that a lot of times, and that's the thing about food, it brings everybody together and you just start talking about different dishes, and everybody has something different that their family did. So our camera guy, his family would put in apples into their stuffing. And one thing I like sometimes, if you wanted to add like meat, is just some ground like Italian sausage in here with apples, and it would just add like another heartiness and a little bit more protein to it. All right, I'm going to chop up a little bit of garlic to add into this while our onions and our celery here is sauteing. It's very simple to make, you know. And if you didn't have time, or say you don't have the extra, you know, dry bread in your freezer, and you don't have the time to crumble and dry it up, you can certainly buy, you know, just dried cubed bread this time of year at pretty much any grocery store in town. All right, so our garlic we're getting chopped up, and then we're going to start to just really bring all of this together. All right, in goes the garlic. I always like adding the garlic later because we don't want that garlic to burn. We just want it to kind of add a little bit more aromatic and savory quality to our dish. All right, celery and onion is working. Now, I'm going to go ahead and add a couple eggs into our bowl. The eggs are going to serve, you know, as a little bit of a binder here. And if I didn't mention this, I did start with some melted butter in the pan before I added in the celery and the onions. Just going to start to strip these fresh herbs. We've got some fresh thyme. You could add rosemary. I've got thyme, oregano, and sage. I think sage is kind of the key in this dish because it's so bold in flavor, and it's just kind of quintessential flavor and herb of Thanksgiving. So, all right. So all these herbs, we're just going to kind of give a nice like rough chop. Definitely fresh if you can get it. Dried, of course, will work. You could do the rub sage or you know, the dried thyme. But if you're using fresh, a good rule of thumb to keep in mind is you want to use about 3 times as much as you would dried. So you are going to need a little bit more when it comes to the fresh, but it definitely, to me, gives it a little bit stronger of a flavor. All right, so now all we're going to do is mix all of this together in the bowl, our celery, our onions, our breadcrumbs, and then we bind it a little bit and kind of add a little turkey stock into our ingredients. I'm going to mix this up. We're going to get this in the oven, brown it up, and then we'll show you guys the finished product. You're watching Midday Kentucky. You guys can go and find this recipe at middaykentucky.com/recipes. I'm Chef Allison Davis. Thanks so much for watching. We will be right back after this short break.